Hello there. I'm John Stewart, and I'm really pleased to get the invitation to say a few words with you today. I chair UECNA, and as you almost certainly know, UECNA is a European-wide body made up of community groups impacted by aircraft noise, also sometimes by pollution as well. Although we concentrate in Europe, we have got members elsewhere, including a recent member from Brisbane in Australia. We have two functions, really. One is to network amongst organizations, to tell people about best practice, to learn from each other, to learn what goes on at each other's airports, to learn from each other's campaigning and lobbying techniques. And we do that through regular contact with each other, with webinars, through our website and our newsletter. The other role we have is to try and bring the community voice to be listened to those in power. And we're members of the EU Noise Expert Group. We speak regularly with the European Commission. We speak with some other key European bodies responsible for safety and noise. And we also represent communities on some of the working groups in ICAO. So that's what we do. And I've been asked in particular to talk to you about any successes that there have been, because all of us who've been fighting aviation, particularly those of us who've been fighting aviation for quite some time, often feel that ground down by the aviation industry, often feel that our governments are not listening to us. My own background is in transport and noise. I worked on surface level transport for mainly public transport for quite some time. And then from the year 2000 to 2020, I worked with an organization called HACAN. I coordinated it, and it gave a voice to residents impacted by Heathrow Airport. And there's a huge number of them. I now, as I said, chair UECNA, but I also work with residents around London City Airport, which is a much smaller airport in London, but situated very close to where people live. So what sort of successes have there been? Well, there have been some. I'll start with Heathrow. Over the last 20 years, we have twice defeated proposals for a third runway at Heathrow. They were dropped in 2010, and then they were dropped again just before COVID. The proposals might come back again, but if they did come back, it would be a very different third runway, because Heathrow admitted that in the early years, they didn't listen to the community. They disregarded their interests. And they now know that if they're ever to get a third runway at Heathrow, they've got to give something to the community. They've got to make noise front and central of any of their proposals. There have been successes in other parts of Europe as well. Campaigners in Germany successfully defeated plans for a third runway there. The most famous battle of recent years was in Nantes, which is a medium-sized town or city in southwest France. There were proposals for a new airport in farming land, and that was defeated by a coalition of small French farmers. local people and environmentalists. There's also been some success over night flights, which are absolutely hated by people living under flight paths. The when a fourth runway was built at Frankfurt, it was built on the condition that there would be a reduction in night flights. And in fact, I think right now, no night flights are allowed at Frankfurt between about midnight and 5 in the morning. I may not have those times exactly right. But there are no night flights allowed at Munich, in Germany, in Düsseldorf, in Germany, and there's a very tight restriction on night flights at Heathrow. So, as I say, there have been some successes. At the moment, Schiphol, which is in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, community campaigners are working with their government to try and reduce the number of flights from 500,000 a year to 440,000 a year. They're facing some obstacles, but the fact the government is working with the community is very much a step in the right direction. It also meant that the European Union has begun to take noise more seriously. It still focuses on climate change, but there are targets to reduce noise, including aviation noise, over the next few years. There are big targets and a lot of money going into investing in high-speed rail, which can often be an alternative to short-haul flights. So when those successes came about, what was the criteria? I think central to the successes were the local communities mainly concerned about noise and air pollution. But the successes often came about, and nearly always came about, when the local communities made coalitions with other people. Whether it is the environmentalists concerned about climate change, sometimes it's the direct action protesters were involved. They often reached out to sympathetic members of their parliaments, to, in some cases, businesses who felt threatened by expansion. So I think one of my clear messages is that if we are to win, let's try and build as big a coalition as possible. Coalitions are not always easy because people have come with different agendas and different motives sometimes. But if we can hold the coalition together, then that is a real chance of being successful. So as we look forward, I have mixed feelings. I think governments across the world are concentrating on climate change. I understand why. But there is a danger that noise, which is the main concern of local residents, is not given the priority it should be. So while we will work with our campaigners from climate change, we've also got to, I think, build up a strong and independent noise movement in each country as possible. So it's aviation noise campaigners linking up with campaigners on other aspects of noise, like road noise. Wind turbine noise in the UK is a big problem. So I look forward with some hope because I look back and see we've had some victories. I look back and see, I think, how those victories were achieved. And I feel, using the same sort of techniques again, that we can have future victories, particularly when I think noise is slowly coming up the agenda. Governments can't ignore their noise and can't ignore us forever. Thank you very much again for giving me this opportunity of speaking with you, and I hope you have a great meeting. Bye-bye.